We've talked a lot about development work, but let's go back and think about some traditional forms of fundraising. And these will be ones which I suspect you've got experience of already. They can be as simple as raffles at concerts, selling extras alongside with a tuck shop, bring and buy book sales and that sort of thing. And what these are particularly useful for is getting the community around the Music Hub involved in helping us what we do, in involving young people, involving parents, and starting to develop our community that understands actually we're not just delivering a service, we're in this together, and let's make it better together. More about traditional fundraising, and I suppose by this I mean individual giving, and how we tell our stories and promote our organisations as something that people would want to simply give money to. When I started looking at this style of fundraising, I spoke to a colleague who was very good at it, but he ran a children's hospice. And when I said, oh, come on, what's the secret then? Somewhat innocently, I suppose, when we think about it, he pointed out that, well, I deal with children at the end of their lives, with families losing their children, and that's something that really tugs at the heartstrings. It's what people want to help. And, you know, you can think of lots of charities that do fire the imagination in that way. Animal charities do well in that way too, as do some of the military charities at the moment, hugely successful. How can we learn from that? And I think we can a bit. If we think about when we were promoting our services on a political level to try and engage people, we looked for music champions. Do you remember those? We looked for individuals who'd been inspired by our service, who'd come through and benefited, and then benefited the rest of us by their contribution to the industry and that sort of thing. And I think if you think about it, you can probably find those individuals or those groups or those projects that fire the imagination of people who want to raise money for us. For me, we found a very inspirational young man who'd come to the service, actually the brother of one of our rather talented cellists, but he was an adopted child with a horrible background of abuse, of additional disabilities, and we worked in many ways with him, some music therapy, but also he belonged to our bands and ensembles and became one of those children, just belonged at the music centre. He helped run the tuck shop and was very central to the community. And he, with us, and we helped him to write a story that really painted the picture of our organisation from an individual, and that was helpful as a fundraising tool. So when we have our stories, where does this money come from? And this can be a whole range of approaches. It can be simply families, grandma running coffee mornings and that sort of thing. My own mother raised quite a few hundred over the years knitting baby clothes for our organisation. And that all adds to what we do. It can also be businesses, businesses that have, you know, charity of the week or run sponsorship events, the sort of things where people enjoy fundraising. It can be literally fundraising events, big charitable dinners, difficult to organise, lots of money can be raised. But be careful how much resources that takes. That can be quite a hard thing to organise, but done well, with a good charity auction as part of it, can be really quite profitable. You can also look at individual very rich people. We had a chap who'd grown up in our local area, Jack Petchy. Jack Petchy Foundation is now quite well known, but when it was starting out, Jack gave lots of money to Newham Music Trust and remains a supporter, but basically for quite a while funded our Saturday school. And that can be extremely helpful if you find those people.